Hello, hello, welcome back. It has been some time. I thought I'd do a quick little wrap up of stuff that I've been reading these past few months. So I've had some highs, I've had some lows. Let's just get into it. So the first book I read was actually a series. It is the Magical Dating Agency series by Kelly St. Clair. This is a paranormal romance about a Cupid named Cirrus. Cirrus is running a magical dating agency with her best friend who happens to be a harpy. The story, as you can probably guess, takes place in a fantastical world. So there are all these different types of magical creatures that live amongst each other, like centaurs and vampires and cupids. They coexist with each other, but there's definitely some speciesism and some classism in the mix. So in this world, every creature or magical being has a certain level of power depending on how close they are in terms of generation. If they are first generation, second generation, or third generation. And this is the part where it gets kind of tricky. These generations are linked to the different various mythological gods like Venus and Athena and stuff like that. And that part I kind of got lost in, but whatever, we'll get to that later. So Cirrus is a third generation, so she sees herself as very weak. Most Cupids are third generation. So the later you are in your generation, the weaker your power is. So Cirrus is a weak Cupid. She can't really use magic. She just kind of has an idea for which couples will end up together just by kind of looking at them. But she doesn't really have any strong enough magic to get them together. She can just kind of steer them in the right direction. Her power level is not what she's worried about. She has been cursed by a witch, and that curse makes it so that she cannot have any kind of intimate touch with anybody that she wants to. So she is a Cupid who can't fall in love, who can't even get her freak on, actually, because she's been cursed. That doesn't stop her from trying, though. She goes on dates with several hundreds of men, and anytime a guy gets near her in a romantic or a physical sense, the guy lights on fire, the bed springs forth and hits somebody. I think at one point somebody crashed through the ceiling. So the curse is real. The curse is super intense, and it's pissing her off because she's a Cupid and she loves love and she can't happen to fall in love. So on top of the curse drama, it looks like Cupids are being hunted down for a very weird reason, and she wants to figure out what that reason is and why she's all of a sudden being involved. So this series was really fun. It was a really lighthearted and kind of just a really feel-good read. There was nothing super great about the literature aspect of it, I will say. It's nothing like prose you would applaud. It's very campy, it's fun, it's cheeky. There's a lot of puns, there's a lot of sex jokes, a lot of kind of roll your eye one-liners, but I really enjoy those books because sometimes you just want to turn your brain off and read a little garbage every now and then. Cirrus is really fun and independent, and you can tell she's really sick of this curse and ready for a guy to come and change her life. So the mystery plot on top of the kind of romance aspect was done pretty okay, I think. It wasn't done in any way that was particularly fascinating or Oscar worthy. I think it was just fine. I enjoyed it for what it was. I do think that the Greek mythology and relating it to vampires and werewolves and other magical beings was kind of weird because those are two very different ideas. But I mean, I understood what was trying to be said. I just think it could have been done way more professionally, way more written out, but it wasn't a big deal. I enjoyed myself. I will say, I started this series for the smut, because I'm a woman with literary needs, just like anybody else. And spoiler alert, you don't get any smut until book 3, and it's like a paragraph long, which is so like, I'm sick of books like doing this to me because it feels almost offensive that you're putting these girls in 90s on the cover, you're putting these ripped werewolves on the front, you're showing me bulges on your front cover, and you're not giving me anything until book 3. That just kind of pissed me off a little bit. But other than that, really, really fun read. If you like series, if you like magical romance, this is really fun, albeit a little cheesy. I would give the series 3 stars overall. Pretty good, enjoyable, a little corny, but it's what I'm here for. Next, I read Forbidden City by Vanessa. It is the 1960s in rural China, where a girl named May wants to thrive outside her horrible and poor farm life. She wants to serve directly under Chairman Mao and be a part of the revolution she hears night and day about. When the Communist Party begins to recruit girls for a mysterious duty, May sees it as a way out of the farm, a way out of poverty, and so she decides to make a star of herself in order to get chosen. After she's selected and arrives at the chairman's palace, she does everything in her power to become his favorite, and she learns about the absolute craziness that goes around in the palace, as well as the tragedies that the girls share, all while trying to remember the importance of the party. This was incredible. So the book starts out when everything's been done and over with. She's an adult now. She's kind of looking back on her life after the revolution, and that's just a small, tiny section of it. A majority of the book talks about her life as one of these Chairman Mao party girls, which is a real job that they had in China during the 1960s. Her teen years in poverty, her obsession with Mao, her kind of forced adulthood, those are all scenes that are super visceral, super real, and they're almost claustrophobic in a way because you feel like you're in there with her and you're kind of just like struggling to breathe. So historically, there's a lot of mixed accounts about Chairman Mao's parties, which that's pretty much all we know, is that there were parties and that there were girls there, and Chairman Mao was often there. We don't really know the truth of it all. We have a lot of mixed witness accounts, but I think Hua does an excellent job of mixing research and her own idea of what a woman's life was like in that time. She's Chinese herself, so she definitely gets a lot of this stuff through research, through respect for the country and the cultural revolution that was happening at that time. May is a fantastic character. She's not super likable in a lot of ways because not only is she flawed, she's super cunning, she's super cutthroat. She cares about herself because it's a dog-eat-dog world right now and there's no real time to make friends. Hua did an amazing job. I think that this is one of her best books. I know that it took her years to write this book, and it shows because she put a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of love into this novel. This was absolutely 5 stars, and I will be reading more Vanessa Hua after this. The next book I read was We Cast a Shadow by Maurice Ruffin. So in this world, racism is so normal and commonplace that people are getting demelanization surgery, which is exactly what it sounds like. Black people and many other people of color literally go under the knife to make their skin pale, to make their noses and lips smaller, basically do everything in their power to look like a white person, to actually become a white person. This popular procedure pretty much guarantees a very successful, happy, and safe life. People of color are very much treated awfully by the police, by citizens of not color, and they kind of spent their whole life either in hiding or being a kiss ass, essentially. Our main character is unnamed and is married to a white woman, and he's kind of trying to make it big at his law firm so that he can get this procedure for his son. So his son is currently white passing, but he has a birthmark that is spreading and is making him look more black. But this father becomes obsessed with the procedure, so much so that it begins to question his humanity, and the family he so loves begins to come apart in the process. Okay, mixed feelings about this book. I think it was super highbrow. I think that I might not be smart enough for it. There were definitely some nuances that I felt were a bit above my pay grade. There's a lot of talk of race. There's a lot of talk of self-hatred. I thought those instances were well done, but there is many lengths that these people of color go through that is almost hard to read. At the law firm, to impress white people, these black men dress up as ridiculous characters to the point of nudity, barbarism. It very much gave me the Invisible Man vibes. I think that if you read that book and you were kind of like unsure of what was to come, or you felt a little bit scarred by it, This book is very much in that way the same sense. These men just want a job. Like, they're doing all this just for a job. I will say that the flashbacks are scattered constantly. There's no real pacing. It's kind of up and down and kind of intense the whole way through, and then there's some weird like comforting scenes in the middle where you're not sure why they're put there. I will say that the story of a man who will literally do anything for his son is done really, really well. You get a chance to really understand why the narrator is the way he is, and yet you don't ever root for him. He's not a likable guy. He's not meant to be someone who you relate to, because you know he's awful. You know that he might be doing this for his son, but it's not really so much for his son. It's kind of more for him. I do think that towards the end of the book, it got a little crazy. It got a little like, what was that? And then the epilogue was kind of like, I really didn't need all that actually. You could have kept that to yourself. I'm not going to rate this one because this one was definitely a thinker. I definitely had a hard time getting through this one because of the content and the feelings that it gave me, and also just because, like I said, a little highbrow. But I did enjoy reading it. I think it taught me a lot of stuff. And I think that if you're someone who is interested in this kind of text, if you enjoyed The Invisible Man, I think that you would enjoy this book. So no rating, glad I read it. Finally, I read The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper. This is about the tragic lives of 4 brothel women living in Pompeii and how they're just kind of trying to make it day by day. We're following Amara, a girl who was once from a well-off family, but then when her father died, her mother was forced to sell her because they couldn't make ends meet anymore and they really had no other choice to survive. The other 3 women in the brothel become Amara's friends, her sisters really, in this terrible world ruled by men's vices and violence. We learn each of the women's stories and we kind of walk beside them as more tragedy and drama unfolds as they just try to make a living. I'm gonna hand it to white people on the Greek stuff. Just the Greek stuff. Listen, I eat it up every time. I love stuff that has to do with Pompeii, brothel women. I love stuff that has to do with just the Greeks suffering and writing a story that breaks you down. Back to the story though. Wow, Harper writes a really phenomenal piece here. She breathes such life into characters. I hate books where we're following multiple people, and even though there's a main character, you can tell that the author kind of favors the main character and kind of just made the side characters as afterthoughts. This book has life in each one of these characters. She really did her research. She really made sure that you knew which girl was which, because all of them have completely different personalities and they all sound different from one another. And guess what? All these women are fighters. They are fighters against sexism, against old demons that they used to have. Sometimes they fight amongst each other because it's not always paradise in the whorehouse that you live in. There's also a lot of like side drama. While there are competing whorehouses, the women don't necessarily have beef with each other, their bosses do. So it's kind of just like this advertisement for your body and making sure that you're the meat that's wanted most at the moment. It's sick and it's crazy, but it's real. Harper can write a villain, by the way. I was more disgusted by this villain than I had been by many others in a long, long time. The owner of the brothel is this disgustingly vile man that just constantly raises the bar for how evil a man in this era could be. Really, really wonderful. Audiobook was so good. I really recommend the audiobook if you wanted to start something Greek and tragic. I just found out this is a series, so I will be continuing this series for sure. So that's all the stuff I've been reading lately. I can't say it's a lot because with work and school and a lot of other stuff that's been going in my life, but I definitely want to get back into it. June is my birthday month and it's also Pride month, so it'll be a good month to read. I hope you're having fantastic reading months. I hope you are excited for Pride that is coming up. I hope you're reading queer, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one.